What is up, guys? We are back. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, David Baxter. So 90 Day Fiance, Season 9, Episode 15. 15 episodes in, we've seen one person get married. Ariella and Biniam were not on this episode, so if you were waiting to catch up with them, which I was not, you will have to wait until next week. So let's jump in and talk about Patrick and Thais. So Patrick, who seems to have infinite family members, has flown out to Boston to meet with his sister Tiffany and his mother, and also to make sure that Thais meets his mother, because we unfortunately learned that his mom has some form of lung cancer and was given less than a year to live. So she will not be able to hypothetically go to the wedding in Orlando, because technically we don't know whether or not it's going to take place. But if it does, she won't be able to travel to see them get married. So they are going to live stream it again, hypothetically, if it happens for her. But Thais was able to meet her, and the meeting between Patrick's mom and his sister kind of turned into an interrogation, because they feel like Thais isn't 100% sure that she wants to live in America. And I actually feel like when they were asking her questions, her answers did make it seem that being here is a compromise she's making to be with Patrick. This is not her preferred area of residence. And she's been all over the country. She's been to Vegas, she's been to Boston, she's been to Austin, she's been to Dallas. She's still not sold on staying in America. And we all know that Patrick has been married before, and Patrick wants children now. So if he and Thais were to have kids and Thais decides she doesn't want to be here, his children could be then taken back to Brazil.
One thing I think that does imply is she's definitely not here for a green card. I know that that conversation has popped up a bunch, but she could care. She seems like she could care less about America, and that's totally fine. Like, she is here for Patrick, and I actually think that's kind of a good thing. Like, I go back and forth between this couple because sometimes I think they're fun to watch, and sometimes I find them a little boring. But I think it's just because you don't always have as much drama as, say, like the Benny and Ari of it all. From what I could tell, Patrick doesn't have a whole lot of ties to his family. He has his brother, and it sounds like he recently reconnected with his mom, but you could tell there was a lot of trouble in that family, and I could see him walking away being like, all right, y'all, if y'all can't respect me, I'm gonna do my own thing.
I mean, I agree that he did tell us that he had just recently reconnected with Tiffany, his oldest sister. They hadn't been close. And he did tell us that there were years that passed that he would not talk to his mother, and they're just recently reconnecting, which is good due to her health condition. So I think that his family's approval is less important than it is to Thais. For Thais, she feels like if she marries Patrick behind her dad's back or against his wishes, that relationship will just be severed forever. Exactly. And I feel like that is definitely keeping her away, because we're 7 days away from the date that they have to get married or she has to go back home, and she's still not even 50-50. I feel like she's like 40-60 on it. She's not even sold that she wants to marry him, because the idea of marrying him almost makes it seem like she wouldn't even be allowed to go back home to visit her family. She feels like that entire relationship would be severed forever.
After you get married, or when you get the green card, or there's like a period where you really can't go back, and it's a long period. It's like 6 months to a year to 2 years.
Yeah, 6 months to a year, I think, is the minimal before you can leave the country.
Yeah, so her getting married means that, like, that's not going to happen. She's not going to see her dad for a long time, and she clearly has a very close relationship with her dad.
Like Patrick's mom said, though, because she said that she had been married 4 times, and she said that you have to be sure. And I feel like Thais isn't sure, but again, his sister said, oh, well, she's young. She doesn't know what she wants. She's not sure. She thinks she loves him, but it could change. And I feel like what she's sacrificing to be with him might be too great for what she's willing to give up, because she comes from a close-knit family. And like you said, Patrick, he could take them or leave them. He's trying to build a relationship, but it's take it or leave it. With Thais, it's not that way. She's close with her grandmother. She's close with her sister. She's close with her dad. There's just not really a question of whether or not they're going to accept her and love her. They have to. All right, so I want to jump over and talk about Eve and Muhammad. So we watched Muhammad have a conversation with his mother. So
Yeah.
all of us were wondering how Muhammad turned out the way he did, right? Because we know his
Right.
dad passed away early in life and he's super close with his mom. So we assumed that his mom was a very cultural woman and that she didn't compromise. But that's not what we saw
Oh
last night.
no.
In fact, she is the most open-minded Muslim woman I have ever seen on
Hmm.
the show. And she gave Muhammad some really good advice. Stop being grumpy and learn to adjust to the surroundings where you are, and don't impose your culture on people who it doesn't pertain to.
Hmm.
And not only did she shock her own son, she shocked America. America was like, we've never heard a Muslim think so openly when it comes to American culture, because, you know, when mixing our culture and Muslim culture, it's usually not a lot of compromise, and there's
Hmm.
definitely a lot of disapproval. So hearing that and seeing his actions really showed that he was being grumpy and grouchy and he's unwilling to compromise. And we watched him go out to dinner with Eve, apologize for the way he was acting, and propose. Now, it was a beautiful moment. I'm not going to downplay it, but
Hmm.
the amount of issues that they had in this short amount of time makes me feel like this relationship is doomed regardless if they do a
Yeah.
clean slate or not. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're at least going to get married, seeing somewhat eye to eye, because I was under the impression they were going to get married and still have not one single thing that they agreed on.
We'll see how that goes with him. I feel like it might be too little, too late for now. And he's a young man. I don't know if he's at that point where he's going to change his mind about what he thinks the world is like. You know. Um, as for her, I don't know. She's an adult woman. She's making her own decisions. I hope that whatever decision happens, or it doesn't negatively affect Theron.
I agree. Theron is the most important person here. And
Yeah.
Theron really, really loves Muhammad. So if it doesn't
Hmm.
work out, I feel like the worst part of the situation would be Muhammad no longer being there. Because
Yeah.
for someone in Theron's condition, accepting people, especially strangers, is a huge deal. And
Yeah.
growing close to people is a huge deal, because a stranger, you know, is someone that Theron would not normally want to interact with or be around. And he has taken such a love and acceptance of Muhammad. So him being in his life and then not being in his life, that's
Mhm.
what's gonna be the most hurtful. Like Eve
Yeah.
is an adult. She's gonna be able to move on and understand that the relationship didn't work. But Theron might not be able to do that. All right, so let's talk about Jabri and Miona real quick. So apparently it was moving day. So we saw Mahala and Jabri's stepdad have a conversation with them last week, and she wanted a plan of what was going on. And in true Jabri fashion, there was no plan, there was no date, there was no venue. They were just winging it as they had
Mm.
done for the previous 60 days. So now that they are super close to the wedding, I mean, within weeks, Jabri has finally produced a rental home in
Mhm.
California in the Joshua Tree, which is doubling as their venue. And I guess a little fire under him is what he needed. And I guess his mom
Mhm.
knows him best, and that's what needed to happen. But I feel like they're punishing him because they don't agree with the relationship and they don't agree with his decisions.
Mhm.
So not going to the wedding isn't necessarily a scheduling conflict as though they're trying to sell it, but they're trying to show him tough love by saying, well, we don't agree with what you're doing, so we won't support it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's counterproductive as a parent. As a parent, you support your child no matter what they're doing, even if you absolutely know it's going to fail. You are the person that they can
Mhm.
go to when it fails to cry on your shoulder.
I think there's a bit of a good intention. It reminds me a little bit of something my parents did when I was younger. But at the same time, we were not in the middle of a Pandarosa that we're going on through.
Yeah.
So at one point in time when I was younger, I had gotten fired from my job and I was like trying to find a new one. And I was like, maybe I could go move back home. And they said, they'd started to say yes, but they ended up being like, well, we thought it would be you would move back home and get a job and then move out and stay in the area where they lived. So I think maybe his parents thought it would be like that and not he's going to live in the house and bring his girlfriend in the house and have no plan going forward. So I'm I'm not condoning their action. I do agree that like you need to support your kids, but I think they also thought that this was going to be a much different situation.
Yeah.
And Jabari might have even pitched it as like, I need to come back and like gather my thoughts before I go back out to LA.
I believe Jabri definitely probably sold them a different story.
Mhm.
And, you know, during the 90 days we watched, and he kept saying, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to save money, I'm going to build a plan. And then each time we watched them, none of
Yeah.
those things happened. And I think that they are tough love parents. You know, I had tough love parents, and it's important to have boundaries with your
Hmm.
kids and say, this is my expectation. But it was hard to watch because he was so unprepared and
Yeah.
he was literally terrified of what was to come. But
Hmm.
I guess putting that fire under him worked because now he has a place to live. Now
Yeah.
he has a place to get married. He has a date. And like he said, he's keeping his fingers crossed that his parents will pop up at the wedding. And I'm hoping that as well. Say this is the only time he gets married.
Hmm.
This is not worth the punishment to not be there to watch your child get married.
I'm sure that like production will work their magic. They always do.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see them pop up at the wedding, surprise everyone, make sure that they're there and watch it happen because we know Jabri and Miona love each other. And again, I know Mahala doesn't care for Miona. She never cared for her. But again, your son loves her, so you have to learn to love her as well. That's it for part 2. I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, David Baxter. Make sure you're live tweeting with us every Sunday night. We are 15 episodes, and next week for episode 16, we are going to watch Ginium and Ariella get married finally. And nobody thought that that would happen. I'm still not convinced, so I'm going to watch the episode and see if they actually exchange vows because I'm still not convinced. All
Yeah.
right, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you all really soon.